Hey everyone, welcome to my analysis of my Season 5 Cascade Draft League or CDL Masters Draft. So for everyone what this is, I'm basically going to be talking about my drafts with my thought process of what was going through my head in this draft and my reasoning behind some of the mons that I picked. But before I do that, I want to introduce myself to y'all because this is my first video in general and I thought this might be fitting if I decide to make this video public. Not really that sure yet. So, with that in mind, hello, you may refer to me as Damage. I've been playing Draft League format for only a year, but I haven't really played in that many leagues in general because I only played in around 1 to 3 leagues at a time. But one thing I will say is that in my short Draft League career, I have never missed out in playoffs in any league I participated in at the very start. Of course, this may change with this season because I'm basically playing in what is basically a majors division, which means every single player has proven themselves to be good and can thus potentially whoop my fucking ass this season. But hey, who knows? Perhaps your coach of the Vermont Victimis can come out on top once again. Oh, and by the way, that thing in the top right over there, it's just something I found on Google. Let's just say it's my logo. Alright? Alright. Now on to my draft. Now for this season, I was pick number 2 in a snake draft. So that means I could get a pretty damn good mon. I could probably get some good synergies and cores down easy since I'm close to the wheel. So the first mon I decided to get is Megalatias. And yes, for those who don't have access to the CDL Discord and are just seeing this video without knowing anything about the league, yes, Megalatias is allowed in this league, but with the condition that if the Megaform is taken, the regular is banned and vice versa. And this is a rule that was established last season. Well, and at the end of the season, most coaches ultimately agreed that while it's annoying as fuck to prep against, it's not exactly that broken. It's not like, oh my god, I can't really do anything because I really can't prep for this team because no matter what I do, Megalatias just beats down my team or something like that. But yeah, about Megalatias. So, because I was like a bit, since I had a really good draft pick in the first round, I wanted to get something that was basically a good all-arounder, and it was something that's easy for me to build around, and Megalatias does fit that kind of, basically fill what I wanted. It's pretty fast at base 110 speed. You can hit pretty hard, has solid coverage obviously you got like Draco's, Sekis, and Psyshops. We also got like Surf, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, nice bolt beam coverage. Pretty good access to setup in Calm Mind. Has some pretty nice utility in like default and Magic Out even or Reflect type, which could be pretty cool, depending on if it's useful in the games that I'm playing. And Megalatias is, I don't know if, I think I've mentioned this already, I forgot. It's pretty damn bulky. Like, it's one of those mons that could serve as a really good defensive pivot because its typing can be pretty useful against certain really good offensive type combinations. Like, for example, it could switch into a mon like Infernape pretty fucking easily because it resists both stabs. But it's still pretty hard, really. It can still hit pretty hard back. It also provides a really good ground immunity for my team, and I think that's all I have for Megalatias. So after my first pick, I had to wait for a while before it came back to me. During that wait, one of the mons that I wanted to snag, the Fable, was taken, which was unfortunate, but wasn't that big of a deal. So, and Clefable was a mon, or the reason why it wasn't that big of a deal that Clefable that Clefable is taken, just because I could easily replace Clefable with any other Wish Passing Fairy that I wanted, and Clefable is a common round to pick anyways. So with that in mind, I wanted to hold off on the Fairy and rather get Steel type in Empoleon. Now, it might seem strange for me to pick a really good Mega, some might even say busted Mega in round 1, and then pick a tier 3 Mon in round 2, but Empoleon, to me, feels like that kind of Mon that can't be easily replaced like Clefable. Because, like, Empoleon is one of those few rare Mons that could set and remove hazards pretty reliably, I would also add, because it's got really good defensive stats, and Water Steel is a pretty good defensive type. Not only that, but it's also one of those ones that works pretty well with Mega Latias, just because it appreciates the ground immunity that Mega Latias has, and at the same time, Mega Latias appreciates the ice resist that Empoleon has. Other than that, aside from, you know, being really good in the hazard game, it gets spam Scalds, it has utility, knockoff. If I really want a meme, I could bring Physical Define Empoleon to punish Defogs, but like I said, that's a meme. Aside from that, there's not really much to say about Empoleon. Like, this Mon isn't really what I'd say versatile in the draft format. Far from it. But what I like about Empoleon is that it is that kind of Mon that just does what it does really well, and that's why I was willing to pick this Mon in round 2. Not only because it's so really good, but I did have the fear that the guy on the wheel pick, just right next to me, would pick Empoleon as sort of like a round 3 pick. Well, I would also fear that this Mon would be taken from me like round 4 or 5. Like as there were a bunch of Mons coming back, being drafted back around to me. So yeah, that's why I picked this thing round 2. Now, after Empoleon, I did say that I could replace Clefable with any kind of Wish Passing Fairy that I wanted, but I figured I might as well just fill this Dragon Fairy Steel Core now, just because it is nice to have that foundation. And not only that, but this particular fairy that I was planning to draft, I haven't drafted it before, and I really want to use it. And that fairy I'm talking about is Sylveon. So, about Sylveon, I would say, out of all of the Wish Passing Fairies that I've drafted in my past draft leagues that I participated in, like Clefable, Aromatisse, Clefable, Florges, Aromatisse, and I suppose you can argue Togekiss, although I wouldn't really consider that a Wish Passing just because Togekiss does a few things much better, which is more desired. But I think that out of all, well, Sylveon being one of them, after all of the Wish Passing Fairies that I've drafted so far, I think Sylveon might be the least passive out of said Wish Passing Fairies. That could also Wish Pass reliably, may I add. Because Sylveon, I would say I think Sylveon has either the first or second best special attack stat of all the reliable Wish Passing Fairies. Not only that, but Sylveon has access to Pixel Hyper Voice, which can do a lot even without investment. Which means Sylveon can be pretty bulky, or be invested pretty bulky with that, while still doing a lot with Pixelate Hyper Voice. And aside from, you know, just being that standard cleric, Wish Protect, Heal Blouse, slash Aromatherapy, it could also be a good Calm Mind Sweeper if the magic calls for it. I suppose maybe in the maybe I could bring, I think, Specs. Yeah, maybe I could bring Specs just because, I mean, its coverage isn't the best, but maybe it might be nice in certain matchups. I don't want to. I'm trying to think over these facts in my head because I don't want to pull up Showdown because I don't want to exit this presentation slide and make this video seem unprofessional. Although since I'm breaking up and stuttering, this video is also might be unprofessional as fuck already. But I think he gets like Psyshock, Hyper Voice, Psyshock, some hidden power. Yeah, Shadow Ball, I think. Yeah, I can't really think of anything at the moment. But yeah, that's Sylveon. So, right after Sylveon, I had another long wait for the draft to come right back out to me again, crossing fingers. And when it did come back to me, I did see that one Mon was able to make it through me, fortunately. However, the other got snagged from me. So let's talk about the Mon that I was relieved to get first. Gliscor. So, excuse me. Again, very professional video, by the way. But hey, this is my first video, so this is fine. Anyway, Gliscor. Like Empoleon, Gliscor is one of those Mons that can set and remove hazards pretty reliably, as it is pretty bulky. And this is a Mon that has really good sustainability in that it has Roost and Poison Heal. It is also one of those Mons that's a pretty decent Sword Stance sweeper, or perhaps breaker of the matchup calls for it. And because it has 95 base speed, while it is slightly below mediocre, it can still be pretty good. It can also be a pretty decent stall breaker in that it has Taunt and Toxic. And I think Super Fang, although I might be confusing it with Crobat, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. So, more on Gliscor. The reason why I like Gliscor in this specific team is that, I don't know if you guys have heard of a PokeTuber named Lord Envy. I'm pretty sure he said this a couple times, but apparently Gliscor and Empoleon was a tried and true defensive core back in Gen 4. And in my past draft leagues, I actually have drafted, similar cores to that type combination. And for example, I have drafted Lando T in Empoleon in the past. I have drafted Gligar in Empoleon in the past. So overall, I just really like how those types work together. Ground Flying is just really good with Water Steel. And this also kind of harks back to why I prioritized Empoleon round 2. Because I think Empoleon might be the only Water Steel type in the game. I'm not entirely sure though. And I could find, a few replacements for Gliscor, and I could find a few replacements for Sylveon. But yeah, there wasn't anything that could replace Empoleon. So, yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say about Gliscor. So, on to my next Mon. Now, when I was looking at the team so far, right now, I thought it got its type synergies and hazard control patted down for the most part, but I do see that the team is too passive. I do have a Calm Mind Sweeper in Megalodias, and I do have a Swords Dancer in Gliscor. But the team right now needs some good breakers to balance out the fats in this team. And Terrakion would have been an excellent breaker in this case. Really good Mon to pressure Dark types for Megalodias. Both because it has Justified, which makes the opponent hesitate to click Dark type moves, as well as stab close combats from Terrakion just destroys Dark types in general. Or most dark types in general. But unfortunately, that mon did go round 5, which was pretty unfortunate, and was also kind of surprising, actually, because last season of CDL, Terrakion wasn't drafted at all. There wasn't even I don't think people even mentioned Terrakion, like, during the off-season period between of CDL, basically that period where there was a little bit of a wait period and mods were being pulled. Terrakion wasn't being mentioned at all. It was like it's like people forgot the mon existed, and which was kind of intriguing for me because in this league, Terrakion was tier 2, and I have seen it in tier 1 in a few leagues, which made me really interested to draft it and try it out and see if it was tier 1 worthy, but alas, I didn't get it. So with that in mind, I still stick with the notion that I wanted offense, and I wanted to fill out that vacant tier 1 spot, so I got Weavile. Now, I'm not going to say that Weavile is going to fill Terrakion's shoes, far from it. But it does give me some really good speed and kind of starts off that. Lets me start off drafting that offense that I need. Now, speaking of speed, Weavile does give me a new speed cap of 125, which is nice. And also when it comes to Weavile itself, Dark and Ice is a pretty good stat combination. It is pretty hard to switch in said combination. Weavile does have some pretty good coverage moves as well, in Poison Jab for fairies and Low Kick for some steals. But aside from that, I really can't find anything else about Weavile. Oh, it does get access to Swords Dance, which might be nice in certain matchups. But yeah, Weavile, like Empoleon, it's not really that versatile. It does one thing, it just does it really well. In the case of Weavile, it just hits shit really hard. But I still like Weavile in that it does, do that role just because it is something that I needed. So, after Weavile, which is why. So after my wheel pick in Weavile, I had to wait for a while again, crossing fingers. You know how it is. And fortunately, I didn't get snagged in this rotation. Now, when it came to what I wanted, I stuck with the notion that I needed more offense, again, to balance out the fat in my team. But I thought I wanted to go for a little bit more hazard removal as well. Just to support another mon that I was planning to get down the road. So with that in mind, I decided to go for Serena. Now, Serena does provide rapid spin on my team, and a pretty good rapid spinner in that. Now, I wouldn't really say Serena is, I wouldn't say that rapid spin is necessary in a draft. However, I did realize last season that you might run into certain matchups where you're gonna run across a mon that could punish default really heavily, and then you just be pretty boned after the fact. For example, mons like Bisharp, Superior, hell, even mons like Lurantis and Malamorn, because give him an evasion boost, and you might be close. You might be just done at that point, because you might not just hit them on at all at that point. So, yeah. About Serena herself, she is pretty bulky. I think she has like 98 in both defenses and around 70 HP, which isn't like too bulky, but still pretty bulky enough. Which I like. She could also hit pretty freaking hard with base 120 attack. So like, say I slap a band on Serena and just go for power whips or trap kicks and stuff like that. That's just gonna hit pretty hard. She also has a way to hit spin blockers in knockoff, and a good way to pivot out in U-turn, which is pretty nice. But aside from that, oh yeah, she also has reliable recovery in herself and synthesis, and also the ability to be a cleric in aromatherapy, which further emphasizes the bulky role that I like from Serena. Excuse me. Again, very professional video, by the way. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about Serena. Now, after Serena, I thought a fast electric type would be nice, since I don't want to rely on Serena to break bulky waters. So I decided to go for Raikou. And yes, I drafted Serena first, before Raikou, because the dude who was on the wheel next to me already had like 2 electrics. And with that in mind, I really didn't think they was going to draft on an electric type again, just because he would be weak to ground spam. So yeah, about Raikou. Honestly, there isn't much about to say about Raikou, except he's pretty fast, and he hits pretty hard with electric stabs. Raikou does give me, Raikou does fit pretty well with my speed tiers in that it gives me a mon between Megalodius and Weavile in 115. And yeah, I guess it's just a mon that just hits pretty hard with electric stabs. It has some coverage in Shadow Ball, maybe extra sensory. But yeah, similar to Weavile, not really that versatile. It just hits hard. Actually, wait. Raikou does have access to Calm Mind. Perhaps a sub-calm mindset could be cool, depending on the matchup. But yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I think that's all I gotta say about Raikou. Oh yeah, it does have Aura Sphere, but I do have to make it shiny and give it a rash nature, which might be useful, again, depending on the matchup. But yeah. Next mon. So, after Raikou, I had to go for another long wait, waiting for the draft to come back to me again. And I thought now would be a good time to draft my Terrakion replacement. Now I will say that this mon doesn't exactly fill Terrakion shoes, just because it is much slower than Terrakion. But it does still fit the job anyways, at least I would like to think so. So said mon is Buzzwole. Now about Buzzwole. Oh, which is also my Z captain, by the way. So, the reason why I say it's kind of like my Terrakion replacement in that it still pressures dark types, for which Megalodius appreciates, because both stabs pressure dark types pretty well. I also like Buzzwole because its typing gives it a good defensive niche against some types like ground and fighting. And this mon is insanely physically bulky. And it can also hit pretty hard because I'm pretty sure both physical attack and physical defense are like 130 or something like that. Buzzwole also has access to Roost, which is also pretty nice. And also, what I really like about Buzzwole here is the reason why I made it a Z captain is because this one actually has some pretty surprising coverage. Like, it's got Ice Punch, it's got Poison Jab, I believe it also has Outrage, I think. And I think it also has Earthquake, although I'm not entirely sure. But yeah. Oh yeah, and what I also like about Buzzwole is he also has an ability that does give it the opportunity to snowball a game. Cause, like, let's just say for instance, I decide to go for a Scar Puzzle this week. If it gets a kill, and gets that attack boost, assuming I opt to invest in attack, and the team has nothing for it, then yeah, Buzzwole can just sweep games by itself. I think that's all I want to say about Buzzwole. Next mon. So because I usually have to wait for a while, to pick my 2 mons because I am a little bit close to the wheel. At the time, I didn't really pay attention to what was going on in the draft, and I didn't really pay attention to what I was sniping, whether I was sniping yet or not. So I was pretty upset that Moltres was sniped from me, just because Moltres, looking at some of the coaches that I'm gonna be facing this season, both of them had a form of Scizor, and if any of you have played UU before, you would know that Moltres is fantastic against Scizor. Not only that, but it also, when Moltres was sniped for me, it also felt like Serena was kind of like a wasted pick, because I could have picked something like Shaman instead of Serena, as that would have been a much better offensive grass, while also still being pretty bulky as well. So yeah, that kind of sucked. So after I figured out Moltres was gone, I had to spend about an hour or two just looking at the tier list and trying to look for that low tier fire type Z captain. That would be nice for my team, just because assuming I did get Moltres, that was going to be the second Z captain on my team. So, oh yeah, and for those who don't know how the league works, we are only allowed 2 Z captains. One of them has to be tier 3 or below. Anyway, so after about that 1 to 2 hour long search, I found out that Salazzle was still on the table. So I decided, why not? Now Salazzle was pretty nice for my team. Pretty fast, and base 117 speed. Wait, hold on. Pardon me. Salazzle is also a pretty nice nasty plot sweeper / breaker, because a +2 acid downpour from it just hits like a truck. Salazzle also provides me that nice grounded poison, which is nice for my team. Salazzle also has that niche value in that it has the ability Corrosion, which might be nice if I want the toxic bulky steals or bulky poisons on the switch. Bulky steals, I suppose that might be even more niche just because Salazzle threatens them with Flamethrower, but hey, who knows? It might be useful. Aside from that, I don't think there's much to say about Salazzle, although I suppose I could say Poison Fire is a pretty good stab combination in itself, and I could see just bulky grounds being able to switch in that only, but I could just use HP Ice, which is nice on a Nasty Plot set, or Toxic. But yeah, that's Salazzle. So, after Salazzle, after I drafted Salazzle, I did feel pretty relieved that I was able to get that nice fire type to also round out my Fire Water Grass core. But at the time, or rather looking back now, I think I may have drafted Salazzle a little bit too hastily, because at the time that I drafted Salazzle, there were only 2 coaches that didn't have a fire type yet. One of them who could only draft tier 4 and below mons at that point. And at the time, Miltank was still on the board, so I should have drafted Miltank, then Salazzle afterwards. And unfortunately, Miltank was taken sometime after I took Salazzle, which was unfortunate. With that in mind, I decided to draft, what I can best replace Miltank with, which is Regirock. Now, I'd say Regirock is a pretty solid stealth rocker. Gives me a good flying resist, because when you have a Mon that's quad weak to flying and Buzzwole, having a good answer to bird spam is always nice. What I also like about Regirock here is that while it doesn't have access to reliable recovery, I would say it's less passive than Miltank, just because it does have some pretty good offensive coverage, and it has a decent attack stat of 100. Like, if I recall correctly, I know that it gets Earthquake. I'm pretty sure it has 2 out of the 3 elemental punches, like Fire and Electric. I think it also has Fighting type moves as well, which is pretty nice. Curse sets might also be nice, because it also like I said, it does have the additional coverage. But aside from that, I think that's all I gotta say about Regirock. So, looking at my team, I decided that even though I did get my Miltank replacement, I still wanted one more rocker on the team. Just because, as much as I like the Gliscor and Empoleon defensive core, I didn't want to rely on that, plus Regirock. So I decided to go for Seismitoad here. Now, at first, I kind of thought Seismitoad might be a little bit of a weird pick for me, just because in the past, I did kind of harp on this philosophy in that dual typings are fine with the draft as long as the Mons that have those types don't have redundant roles. And Seismitoad and Empoleon are kind of redundant in that they basically serve the bulky water type role on the draft. But here's what I like about Seismitoad. So at this point, I believe I have 4 quad weak Mons in Seismitoad, Buzzwole, Salazzle, and Gliscor. But I feel that most of those quad weak types I've had my grounds covered for. So with that in mind, or rather, the reason why I liked getting Seismitoad here is that I forced my opponent to make a choice on what coverage do they want to make. Do they want to bring ground coverage for Salazzle? Do they want to bring flying coverage for Buzzwole? Do they want to bring ice coverage for Gliscor? Do they want to bring grass coverage for Seismitoad? With that in mind, I really like Seismitoad here just because it forces my opponent to make those choices in their prep. And I can scout for said choices with my play and try to act accordingly. Or I can easily or if I know that my opponent is bringing a said coverage move against me, I can work around that with weakness berries, which is pretty nice. So, enough about that. Let's talk about Seismitoad. Sets rocks, spam scalds, has utility and knockoff, provides a water immunity and water absorb, which is nice. And yeah, I think that's it. Again, like I did say before that Seismitoad is kind of like Empoleon in that they only do one thing well, but it does do it well. I will say that. Oh, and by the way, I can't believe I'm saying this now, but apologies for the pinging. I forgot to turn off Discord. before I was recording. This is the first time I forgot to turn off Discord. God damn it. But hope you mind the pings. So, last mon. Now that we're reaching towards the end, I tried to figure out what I still needed in my draft that the last mon could cover. And I really couldn't find much at the time what my team really needed, as I felt that I had all my grounds covered for the most part. I felt that I wasn't really weak to any particular type. I thought my speed was good at the time. I thought my hazard control was pretty good at the time. So with that in mind, I decided to look at, some of my past teams that I drafted before and see what they really needed, and even try to look at some of my past replays, see what I lacked at the time. And last season, Grand Finals, I lost to a Mew that only carried Taunt, and its only attacking move was Seismic Toss. That was like Stealth Rock, Taunt, Roost, and Seismic Toss. So I decided, you know what? Fuck it. Let's get a Ghost type. So Dusknoir was that said Dark type of choice. Oh my god. Dusknoir was that said Ghost type of choice. So, about Dusknoir. Pretty good defensive stats, albeit a really shit HP stat. It also has a pretty good base attack stat of 100, so it can hit decently hard. It could be that pretty good defensive ghost type, and that has Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split. It also has some pretty good coverage as well, like Shadow Punch, some of the elemental punches. I think it has some fighting type coverage as well. Earthquake. I think Stone Edge, although I don't know. But yeah, that's Dusknoir. Just picked it because I don't want to get swept by Seismic Toss. So yeah, that's my team. Like I said before, I'm kind of liking it for the most part. Although looking at it now, there are slightly weaknesses in my team. Like, there was a PR in this league a few days ago, which basically said that I do have a little bit of a speed gap. I forgot where it was, but it was somewhere around the 100. It was somewhere below the 100 mark, because I know that Gliscor doesn't really want to run max speed most of the time, which is a very fair assessment. But yeah, that's my draft analysis. Perhaps maybe in a few days, expect a team builder video for my week 1 match, and maybe a live commentary video. I'm just not sure how to go about this yet. But yeah, this has been your coach of the Vermont Martinis. Hopefully making playoffs this league, because again, this is basically a majors division, and I just hope I don't go 0-7 in this league. So yeah, deuces.